Question 1. Process analysis reveals that a prospective student, while taking the American University of Science and Technology entrance exam online, sends a message to the proctor asking for clarification on a specific question, stating they are stuck and need a little hint to proceed. What is the most appropriate response for the proctor to ensure adherence to the exam's regulatory framework? Option A. Provide a general explanation of the concept tested in the question without directly answering it to help the student understand the underlying principle. Option B. Ignore the student's message, assuming they will eventually figure out the question or move on. Option C. Advise the student to search for the answer online or consult their notes, as the university wants to see how they approach problem solving. Option D. Politely inform the student that no assistance or hints can be provided for any exam questions, and remind them of the examination rules regarding academic integrity. The correct answer is D. Politely inform the student that no assistance or hints can be provided for any exam questions, and remind them of the examination rules regarding academic integrity. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's perceived need for immediate assistance and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well on an entrance exam, especially for a competitive program at the American University of Science and Technology, can lead students to seek shortcuts. However, the university's regulatory framework, as implied by its entrance exam, mandates adherence to specific rules designed to ensure a level playing field and the validity of its admissions process. The core of the challenge lies in balancing support for prospective students with the strict enforcement of examination protocols. The correct approach involves a direct and transparent communication of the university's examination policies and a clear refusal to provide any unauthorized assistance. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principle of fairness and the regulatory requirement for all candidates to undergo the same assessment process without external influence. By upholding these standards, the university ensures the integrity of its admissions, preventing any candidate from gaining an unfair advantage. This approach is directly supported by the implied regulatory framework of any reputable educational institution's entrance examination, which prioritizes honesty and equal opportunity. An incorrect approach would be to offer hints or guidance on specific questions, even if presented as a general clarification. This constitutes a violation of examination rules, as it provides an unfair advantage to one candidate over others and undermines the validity of the assessment. Such an action would be ethically unsound, as it compromises the principle of fairness and could lead to the admission of unqualified candidates. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the request entirely, as this fails to uphold the university's responsibility to guide prospective students on proper conduct during the examination, and could be interpreted as tacit approval of seeking unauthorized help. A third incorrect approach would be to suggest the student consult external resources during the exam, which directly contravenes the controlled environment of an entrance examination and is a clear breach of academic integrity regulations. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established rules and ethical conduct. This involves first understanding the university's examination policies thoroughly. When faced with a request that appears to violate these policies, the professional should clearly and politely communicate the relevant rules and the reasons behind them. The focus should be on educating the student about the importance of academic integrity and the consequences of violating examination protocols. If the request is ambiguous, seeking clarification from a supervisor or the relevant examination authority is a prudent step. The ultimate goal is to maintain the integrity of the examination process while treating all prospective students fairly and ethically. Question 2. Governance review demonstrates that the American University of Science and Technology is facing short-term budgetary pressures, leading to a proposal to invest a significant portion of its endowment in a new venture capital fund that promises high immediate returns, but has a history of investing in industries with questionable environmental and social practices. Which approach best aligns with responsible institutional investment and governance principles? Option A. Invest in the venture capital fund immediately to address the budgetary pressures, assuming that high returns will offset any potential negative externalities. Option B. Conduct a thorough impact assessment of the venture capital fund, evaluating its environmental, social, and governance performance, potential long-term risks, and alignment with the university's mission and values before making any investment decision. Option C. Seek informal recommendations from a small group of senior university officials regarding the fund's suitability, bypassing a formal due diligence process. Option D. Rely on the historical financial performance data of the fund to justify the investment, without further investigation into its operational practices or broader impact. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough impact assessment of the venture capital fund, evaluating its environmental, social, and governance-esque performance, potential long-term risks, and alignment with the university's mission and values before making any investment decision. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the long-term implications of its investment strategy. The need for a robust governance framework is paramount to ensure that decisions are made in the best interest of the institution and its stakeholders, not just for short-term gain. Careful judgment is required to balance competing priorities and adhere to ethical investment principles. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that considers the environmental, social, and governance-esque factors of potential investments. This approach is right because it aligns with the growing regulatory expectation and ethical imperative for institutions to invest responsibly. Specifically, it reflects a commitment to sustainable finance principles, which are increasingly being integrated into institutional investment guidelines and may be implicitly or explicitly encouraged by the American University of Science and Technology's charter or mission statement, even if not explicitly codified in a specific entrance exam regulation. This proactive consideration of ESG risks and opportunities helps mitigate reputational damage, ensures long-term value creation, and demonstrates a commitment to corporate social responsibility, which is a key aspect of sound governance. An approach that prioritizes immediate financial returns without considering the broader impact fails to uphold ethical investment standards. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it overlooks potential long-term risks associated with unsustainable or unethical investments, which could lead to financial losses, reputational damage, and a breach of fiduciary duty to the university's stakeholders. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on historical performance data without forward-looking ESG analysis, is also problematic. While historical data is important, it does not account for evolving market dynamics, regulatory changes, or emerging ESG risks that could significantly impact future returns. This oversight represents a failure to conduct due diligence in a manner that is consistent with modern investment best practices and responsible governance. Finally, an approach that relies on the subjective opinions of a few senior administrators without a structured impact assessment process is a significant governance failure. This lacks transparency, accountability, and a systematic basis for decision-making, increasing the risk of biased or imprudent investment choices. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve establishing a clear investment policy that incorporates ESG considerations. This policy should guide the selection of investments, requiring thorough due diligence that includes an assessment of potential impacts beyond purely financial metrics. Regular reviews of the investment portfolio and adherence to ethical guidelines are crucial for maintaining responsible governance. Question 3. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of failing to meet enrollment targets for the upcoming academic year, with a high potential impact on the university's financial stability and strategic growth plans. Given this, which approach best balances the university's financial needs with its commitment to academic integrity and fair admissions? Option A. Implement a more rigorous review of all applications, focusing on academic merit and potential for success, while simultaneously exploring targeted outreach programs to attract a broader pool of qualified applicants. Option B. Focus solely on aggressive marketing campaigns to attract more applicants, without significantly altering the admissions review process, assuming increased numbers will naturally lead to meeting targets. Option C. Prioritize admitting students who have strong personal connections to the university or influential recommenders, even if their academic profiles are borderline. Option D. Lower the minimum academic requirements for admission to ensure all available spots are filled, thereby guaranteeing financial targets are met. Correct answer is A. Implement a more rigorous review of all applications, focusing on academic merit and potential for success, while simultaneously exploring targeted outreach programs to attract a broader pool of qualified applicants. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's strategic growth objectives with its ethical and regulatory obligations to ensure academic integrity and fair admission. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can create a temptation to overlook or downplay potential risks associated with admitting students who may not meet the established academic standards. Careful judgment is required to uphold the university's reputation and the value of its degrees. The correct approach involves a thorough impact assessment that prioritizes adherence to the American University of Science and Technology's (AUST) admissions policies and relevant accreditation standards. This approach is right because it directly addresses the potential negative consequences of admitting students who may struggle academically, such as increased dropout rates, lower graduation rates, and a potential dilution of academic standards. By systematically evaluating these risks and considering mitigation strategies, the university can make informed decisions that align with its mission and regulatory commitments. This proactive stance ensures that growth is sustainable and does not compromise the quality of education or the integrity of the admissions process, which are fundamental to the university's accreditation and reputation. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on meeting enrollment targets without a comprehensive risk assessment fails to acknowledge the potential negative impacts on academic quality and student success. This approach is ethically problematic, as it prioritizes quantitative goals over the qualitative aspects of education and student well-being. It also risks violating AUST internal policies and potentially any accreditation body's guidelines that emphasize academic rigor and student support. Another incorrect approach that involves selectively applying admissions criteria based on perceived future potential, without a clear and documented framework, is also professionally unacceptable. This introduces subjectivity and bias into the admissions process, undermining fairness and transparency. It can lead to inconsistent decision-making and may not align with AUST-stated admissions philosophy or any governing regulations that mandate equitable treatment of all applicants. A further incorrect approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or informal recommendations to bypass standard admissions procedures is highly risky. This bypasses the established due diligence required for admissions and can expose the university to reputational damage if students admitted through such means are unable to succeed or if the process is perceived as unfair. It disregards the importance of a structured and evidence-based admissions process, which is crucial for maintaining academic standards and institutional integrity. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk management framework. This includes identifying potential risks, assessing their likelihood and impact, developing mitigation strategies, and establishing clear accountability. Professionals should always refer to the university's established policies, ethical codes, and any applicable regulatory guidelines. When faced with conflicting pressures, such as enrollment targets versus academic standards, the decision-making process must prioritize the long-term integrity and mission of the institution. This involves open communication, seeking input from relevant stakeholders, e.g., academic departments, admissions committee, and documenting all decisions and the rationale behind them. Question 4. The evaluation methodology shows a need to assess a candidate's foundational understanding of scientific principles for admission into the American University of Science and Technology. Which approach to designing the entrance examination best aligns with the university's commitment to identifying candidates with strong analytical and problem-solving capabilities, rather than solely testing factual recall. Option A. Developing a comprehensive examination that requires candidates to apply scientific concepts to novel, real-world scenarios, thereby assessing their critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Option B. Designing an essay-based examination where candidates must recall and explain complex scientific theories and historical discoveries in detail. Option C. Creating a multiple-choice test that covers a broad range of scientific facts and definitions, emphasizing breadth of knowledge across various disciplines. Option D. Implementing a series of short, timed quizzes focused on specific scientific formulas and their direct application in predefined problem sets. The correct answer is A. Developing a comprehensive examination that requires candidates to apply scientific concepts to novel, real-world scenarios, thereby assessing their critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a need for careful consideration of how to assess a candidate's understanding of foundational academic principles relevant to the American University of Science and Technology's programs. The challenge lies in designing an assessment that is both comprehensive and fair, accurately reflecting a candidate's aptitude without being overly reliant on rote memorization or specific, narrow knowledge that might not be universally taught or retained. The university's entrance exam must adhere to its own established academic standards and admissions policies, ensuring that the assessment process is transparent and equitable for all applicants. The correct approach involves a comparative analysis of different assessment methods, focusing on their ability to gauge critical thinking, problem-solving skills, and a broad understanding of core concepts. This method is professionally sound because it aligns with best practices in educational assessment, which prioritize evaluating a candidate's potential to succeed in higher education rather than simply testing recall of specific facts. By comparing various methodologies, the university can select an approach that best reflects its academic mission and the skills it deems essential for its students. This ensures that the entrance exam serves as an effective predictor of academic success and upholds the university's commitment to academic excellence. An incorrect approach would be to solely rely on a single, standardized test that focuses heavily on memorization of specific facts or formulas. This fails to capture a candidate's ability to apply knowledge or think critically, which are crucial for university-level study. Such an approach could unfairly disadvantage candidates who may have strong conceptual understanding but struggle with test anxiety or specific testing formats. Another incorrect approach would be to use an assessment that is not aligned with the university's curriculum or learning objectives, leading to a mismatch between what is tested and what is required for success at the institution. This would not only be an ineffective evaluation tool, but also a disservice to prospective students. The professional decision-making process for creating such an assessment should involve a multidisciplinary committee of educators and admissions specialists. This committee should review the university's academic goals, identify key competencies required for success, and then explore various assessment methodologies. A pilot testing phase with a diverse group of applicants can help refine the chosen methodology, ensuring its validity, reliability, and fairness. Continuous review and adaptation of the assessment process based on feedback and outcomes are also essential for maintaining its effectiveness and integrity. Question 5. The evaluation methodology shows that an applicant for the American University of Science and Technology has narrowly missed the minimum score required for admission in a critical section of the entrance examination. The applicant, in a subsequent appeal, expresses immense passion for the field of study and highlights their extensive extracurricular involvement, arguing that these factors demonstrate their potential to succeed despite the test score. The admissions committee is now deliberating on how to respond to this appeal. Option A. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire application package, including academic transcripts, essays, and extracurricular activities, to determine if the overall profile strongly compensates for the slight shortfall in the specific test score, while strictly adhering to any stated university guidelines on exceptional circumstances for borderline applicants. Option B. Grant the applicant admission based on their expressed passion and extracurricular achievements, as these are indicators of future success and align with the university's goal of fostering well-rounded individuals. Option C. Recommend a conditional admission, requiring the applicant to complete a remedial course in the subject area before commencing their degree program, without a full re-evaluation of their existing application. Option D. Inform the applicant that the entrance examination scores are absolute and non-negotiable, and therefore, admission cannot be considered despite their appeal. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire application package, including academic transcripts, essays, and extracurricular activities, to determine if the overall profile strongly compensates for the slight shortfall in the specific test score, while strictly adhering to any stated university guidelines on exceptional circumstances for borderline applicants. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's perceived academic achievement and the objective assessment criteria, compounded by the pressure to maintain positive institutional relationships. The admissions committee must navigate this delicate situation with integrity, ensuring fairness to all applicants while upholding the university's standards. The core of the challenge lies in balancing empathy for a student's aspirations with the non-negotiable requirement of adhering to established entrance criteria. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of the applicant's entire application against the defined entrance requirements, focusing solely on the documented evidence. This approach is ethically sound and professionally justifiable because it prioritizes fairness, transparency, and adherence to established university policy. The American University of Science and Technology entrance exam regulations, as per its stated framework, mandate that admissions decisions be based on a comprehensive evaluation of academic records, standardized test scores, and any other stipulated criteria. Deviating from these objective measures to accommodate personal appeals or subjective interpretations would undermine the integrity of the admissions process and create an unfair precedent for other applicants. An incorrect approach would be to grant the applicant an exception based on their expressed passion or perceived potential, without meeting the minimum academic thresholds. This fails to uphold the regulatory framework of the entrance exam, which is designed to ensure a baseline level of academic preparedness. Such an exception would be ethically questionable, as it compromises fairness to other applicants who met the stated requirements. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the applicant's concerns outright without a proper review, which, while adhering to the letter of the regulations, could be perceived as lacking in professional courtesy and potentially overlooking any genuine, albeit minor, discrepancies in the evaluation. This approach, while not directly violating a specific regulation, could be seen as a failure in professional conduct and institutional responsibility to provide a fair hearing. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a structured, evidence-based review. First, clearly identify the specific entrance requirements and the applicant's submitted qualifications. Second, objectively assess whether the applicant meets all stipulated criteria. Third, if there are any ambiguities or potential errors in the initial evaluation, conduct a secondary, independent review. Fourth, communicate the decision clearly and respectfully, referencing the specific criteria and the applicant's performance against them. This systematic process ensures that decisions are defensible, fair, and aligned with the university's established policies and ethical standards. Question 6. The evaluation methodology shows that an applicant for the American University of Science and Technology has a strong personal statement and compelling extracurricular achievements, but their standardized test scores fall below the minimum threshold for the program. The admissions committee member knows the applicant's family and believes they have significant potential to contribute to the university community. What is the most ethically and professionally sound approach for the admissions committee member? Option A. Advocate for a holistic review of the applicant's entire profile, including their personal statement, extracurriculars, and any documented extenuating circumstances, to determine if their potential justifies an exception to the minimum score requirement, while strictly adhering to university policy on exceptions. Option B. Suggests that the applicant be offered a place in a preparatory program that does not have the same score requirements, even if this means delaying their entry into the desired program. Option C. Inform the applicant that their scores are too low and that there is no possibility of admission, without further consideration of their other qualifications. Option D. Recommend admitting the applicant based on their perceived potential and personal connection, as their enthusiasm and achievements outside of academics suggest they will succeed. The correct answer is A. Advocate for a holistic review of the applicant's entire profile, including their personal statement, extracurriculars, and any documented extenuating circumstances, to determine if their potential justifies an exception to the minimum score requirement, while strictly adhering to university policy on exceptions. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's perceived academic merit and the university's established admission criteria, particularly when those criteria are designed to ensure a baseline of preparedness for rigorous academic study. The admissions committee must balance fairness to individual applicants with the integrity of the academic program and the university's reputation. Careful judgment is required to avoid both undue leniency that could compromise academic standards and undue rigidity that could overlook exceptional circumstances or potential. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's entire profile, considering the specific context of their academic background and any extenuating circumstances, while strictly adhering to the American University of Science and Technology's stated admission policies and ethical guidelines for admissions. This approach prioritizes a holistic evaluation that respects the established criteria, but allows for reasoned exceptions based on documented evidence and a clear demonstration of the applicant's potential to succeed. This aligns with ethical principles of fairness and due diligence in admissions, ensuring that decisions are not arbitrary, but are grounded in a comprehensive understanding of the applicant and the university's academic mission. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the applicant's perceived potential, without sufficient regard for the established academic prerequisites, would be professionally unacceptable. This failure would violate the university's admission policies, which are designed to ensure all admitted students possess the foundational knowledge and skills necessary for the program. It could also be seen as unethical, as it undermines the fairness of the admissions process for other applicants who met the stated requirements. Another incorrect approach that involves bypassing established review procedures to grant admission based on personal acquaintance or perceived influence would be a severe ethical breach. This would violate principles of transparency, impartiality, and meritocracy in admissions. Such an action could lead to accusations of favoritism and compromise the integrity of the university's admissions process, potentially damaging its reputation and leading to legal or regulatory scrutiny. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Clearly understanding and applying the university's admission policies and ethical codes. 2. Gathering all relevant information about the applicant, including academic records, personal statements, and any supporting documentation for extenuating circumstances. 3. Consulting with relevant stakeholders, such as academic department heads or the admissions review board, to ensure a consensus based on established criteria. 4. Documenting the decision-making process thoroughly, including the rationale for any exceptions or deviations from standard procedures. 5. Maintaining confidentiality and impartiality throughout the process. Question 7. The evaluation methodology shows that a candidate, under significant pressure to gain admission to a prestigious program at the American University of Science and Technology, has brought a small, folded piece of paper containing formulas and key concepts into the examination hall, intending to refer to it if necessary. What is the most ethically and professionally responsible course of action for this candidate? Option A. Attempt to subtly signal to another candidate for assistance with a difficult question. Option B. Continue with the exam as planned but mentally review the information on the cheat sheet without physically referencing it. Option C. Immediately and discreetly dispose of the cheat sheet in a waste bin without using it. Option D. Discreetly use the cheat sheet to answer questions, hoping not to be noticed. The correct answer is D. Discreetly use the cheat sheet to answer questions, hoping not to be noticed. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well on an entrance exam, especially for a competitive program at the American University of Science and Technology, can lead individuals to consider unethical shortcuts. The core of the challenge lies in upholding ethical standards and institutional policies when faced with a situation that could significantly impact an individual's future. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation without compromising integrity. The correct approach involves prioritizing academic honesty and adhering strictly to the examination rules and regulations set forth by the American University of Science and Technology. This means refraining from any form of academic misconduct, including using unauthorized materials or seeking external assistance. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with the university's commitment to fair and equitable evaluation. It upholds the principle of meritocracy, ensuring that admission is based on genuine ability and preparation. Furthermore, it prevents the compromise of the university's reputation and the value of its degrees. An incorrect approach that involves discreetly using a pre-prepared cheat sheet would be a direct violation of the American University of Science and Technology's academic integrity policy. This action constitutes academic dishonesty, undermining the fairness of the examination process and devaluing the achievements of honest candidates. It also breaches the trust placed in the student by the institution. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to subtly signal to another student for answers, is also a form of academic misconduct. This behavior disrupts the examination environment and is a clear attempt to gain an unfair advantage. It violates the principle of individual assessment and demonstrates a lack of personal responsibility for one's own learning and preparation. A professional decision-making process in such situations should begin with a clear understanding of the university's academic integrity policies and the consequences of violations. Before the exam, it is crucial to ensure adequate preparation through legitimate study methods. During the exam, if faced with temptation or uncertainty, the professional should pause, recall the ethical obligations, and reaffirm commitment to honest conduct. If a situation arises that feels ethically ambiguous or pressures one towards misconduct, the professional should seek clarification from exam proctors or supervisors, or withdraw from the situation if possible, rather than engaging in any form of cheating. The long-term benefits of integrity and a clear conscience far outweigh any perceived short-term gains from unethical behavior. Question 8. Stakeholder feedback indicates that a prospective student, feeling immense pressure to perform well on the American University of Science and Technology entrance exam, was approached by another candidate offering to share answers during the test. The student is now contemplating how to respond to this offer. Which of the following represents the most ethically sound and professionally appropriate course of action for the prospective student? Option A. Ignore the offer and proceed with the exam, assuming the other candidate will not follow through. Option B. Accept the offer to gain an advantage, as it is a common practice in competitive exams. Option C. Confront the other candidate aggressively and demand they stop offering assistance. Option D. Politely decline the offer, inform the invigilator of the situation, and continue with the exam honestly. Correct answer is D. Politely decline the offer, inform the invigilator of the situation, and continue with the exam honestly. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well on an entrance exam can lead individuals to consider unethical shortcuts. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation ethically, and in accordance with the American University of Science and Technology's (AUST) established guidelines. The correct approach involves prioritizing academic integrity and adhering to the exam's stated rules and the university's ethical code. This means refusing to engage in any form of academic dishonesty, even when faced with perceived pressure or the temptation of an unfair advantage. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principles of honesty, fairness, and respect for the academic process, which are implicitly or explicitly embedded in university entrance exam regulations and codes of conduct. AUST, like any reputable institution, would expect its prospective students to demonstrate these qualities. An incorrect approach would be to accept the offer of assistance, as this constitutes academic dishonesty. This directly violates the principles of fair assessment and undermines the integrity of the entrance examination process. Such an action would be a breach of trust and would demonstrate a lack of ethical character, making the individual unsuitable for admission. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the offer and proceed with the exam without reporting it. While this avoids direct participation in cheating, it fails to uphold the responsibility to report unethical behavior that could compromise the fairness of the examination for all candidates. This inaction can be seen as tacit approval or a failure to act in the best interest of the academic community. A further incorrect approach would be to confront the individual offering the assistance in an aggressive or accusatory manner. While reporting is important, the method of reporting should be professional and respectful, following established university procedures. An overly confrontational approach could escalate the situation unnecessarily and might not be the most effective way to resolve the ethical breach. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves 1. Recognizing the ethical dilemma. Identify the conflict between personal gain and ethical principles. 2. Consulting relevant guidelines. Refer to the AUST entrance exam rules, academic integrity policy, and any student code of conduct. 3. Prioritizing ethical conduct. Determine the course of action that upholds honesty, fairness, and integrity. 4. Taking appropriate action. This typically involves refusing the unethical offer and reporting the incident through the designated channels, such as the exam proctor or admissions office. 5. Maintaining professionalism. Handle the situation calmly and respectfully, even when dealing with unethical behavior. Question 9. The performance metrics show a noticeable decline in a prospective student's grades during their final year of secondary education, particularly in subjects relevant to their intended program of study at the American University of Science and Technology. This trend deviates from their otherwise strong academic record in previous years. What is the most appropriate next step for the admissions committee? Option A. Request additional documentation from the applicant to explain the recent academic performance decline, and consider this information alongside their overall academic profile and any stated extenuating circumstances. Option B. Immediately reject the applicant's application due to the concerning trend in their most recent academic performance. Option C. Focus solely on the applicant's performance in the final year and disregard their academic history from prior years when making an admissions decision. Option D. Proceed with admitting the applicant without further inquiry, assuming the earlier strong performance is indicative of their true potential. Correct answer is A. Request additional documentation from the applicant to explain the recent academic performance decline, and consider this information alongside their overall academic profile and any stated extenuating circumstances. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to interpret performance data in the context of academic integrity and university admission standards. The challenge lies in distinguishing between genuine academic struggle that might warrant support and potential misrepresentation or academic misconduct that could jeopardize an applicant's admission. Careful judgment is required to ensure fairness to the applicant while upholding the integrity of the American University of Science and Technology's (AUST) admissions process. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's overall profile, considering the context of their academic performance. This includes examining the specific courses where performance metrics show a decline, looking for any extenuating circumstances that might explain these results, e.g., personal hardship, documented illness, and assessing the applicant's overall academic trajectory and potential for success at AUST. This approach aligns with the principles of holistic admissions, which aim to evaluate candidates beyond just raw scores, and upholds ethical standards by ensuring a fair and comprehensive assessment. It also implicitly adheres to any AUST-specific guidelines regarding the evaluation of applicant credentials and the handling of potentially concerning academic records. An incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the applicant based solely on the dip in performance metrics. This fails to acknowledge that academic performance can fluctuate and does not allow for the possibility of mitigating factors. Such an approach could be seen as overly rigid and potentially discriminatory, lacking the nuanced judgment expected in admissions. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the performance metrics entirely and proceed with admission without further investigation. This would undermine the integrity of the admissions process and could lead to admitting students who may not be adequately prepared for the academic rigor of AUST, potentially violating institutional standards for student preparedness. A third incorrect approach would be to focus solely on the most recent performance metrics without considering the applicant's performance in earlier academic periods. This provides an incomplete picture and may not accurately reflect the applicant's overall academic capability or potential. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes a comprehensive review of all available information. This involves 1. Understanding the specific criteria and guidelines of the institution, AUST in this case. 2. Gathering all relevant data about the applicant, including academic records, personal statements, and any supporting documentation. 3. Critically analyzing this data for patterns, anomalies, and potential explanations. 4. Considering ethical implications and ensuring fairness and equity in the evaluation process. And 5. Making a well-reasoned decision based on the holistic assessment, with clear justification for the outcome. Question 10. The audit findings indicate a potential discrepancy in the allocation of funds for student support services during the previous academic year, which coincides with the period of the American University of Science and Technology entrance exam administration. The audit team has identified several instances where expenditures appear to deviate from approved budgets without adequate justification. The university's administration is concerned about the timing of this revelation, as it could negatively impact prospective students' perceptions of the institution during the critical entrance exam period. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action for the audit team? Option A. Engage in a preliminary discussion with the university's finance department to understand the context of the expenditures and gather further documentation before finalizing the report. Option B. Immediately prepare a comprehensive report detailing all discrepancies and submit it to the university's Board of Trustees, irrespective of the current entrance exam period. Option C. Temporarily withhold the full report on the fund allocation discrepancies until after the entrance exam period has concluded to avoid potential negative publicity. Option D. Leak the preliminary findings to a local news outlet to pressure the university into immediate action. Correct answer is B. Immediately prepare a comprehensive report detailing all discrepancies and submit it to the university's Board of Trustees, irrespective of the current entrance exam period. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the potential conflict between the auditor's duty to report findings accurately and the university's desire to maintain a positive image, especially during an entrance exam period. The auditor must navigate this delicate situation by adhering strictly to professional auditing standards and ethical guidelines, prioritizing transparency and objectivity. The correct approach involves a thorough, unbiased review of the audit findings and a clear, factual communication of these findings to the appropriate university stakeholders, following established reporting protocols. This ensures accountability and allows for timely corrective action. Regulatory frameworks for academic institutions, such as those governing financial transparency and operational integrity, mandate such reporting. Ethically, auditors have a responsibility to uphold the integrity of their profession and to provide an honest assessment of the situation, regardless of potential reputational impact. An incorrect approach would be to downplay or omit significant findings to avoid negative publicity. This violates the fundamental principle of audit integrity and misleads stakeholders about the true state of affairs. Such an action could also contravene specific university policies or external regulations requiring full disclosure of material audit issues. Another incorrect approach would be to prematurely disclose findings to external parties before informing university leadership. This breaches confidentiality agreements and professional courtesy, potentially causing undue alarm and undermining the university's ability to respond effectively. It also bypasses established communication channels designed to ensure accurate context and appropriate action. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to allow personal bias or external pressure to influence the reporting of findings. This compromises objectivity, a cornerstone of professional auditing, and can lead to inaccurate assessments and flawed decision-making, potentially violating ethical codes of conduct that demand impartiality. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established auditing standards, ethical codes, and relevant university policies. This involves 1. Objectively gathering and verifying all relevant information. 2. Consulting internal policies and professional guidelines for reporting procedures. 3. Communicating findings clearly and factually to the designated university officials. And 4. Maintaining confidentiality and professional skepticism throughout the process. Question 11. Upon reviewing an applicant's submitted academic transcripts for the American University of Science and Technology, AUST entrance exam, the admissions committee notes a significant discrepancy between the grades reported on the transcript and the grades listed on the applicant's online application portal. The applicant has provided a plausible explanation for the difference, citing a clerical error on their part when inputting data into the portal. The committee is tasked with determining the most appropriate course of action to ensure the integrity of the admissions process while being fair to the applicant. Option A. Request the applicant to submit a notarized affidavit confirming the accuracy of their submitted transcript without independently verifying the information with the previous institution. Option B. Contact the applicant's previous educational institution directly to verify the accuracy of the submitted transcripts and grade reports before making any decision. Option C. Immediately reject the application due to the unverified discrepancy, as it raises concerns about the applicant's attention to detail and honesty. Option D. Accept the application as is, assuming the applicant's explanation of a clerical error is truthful, and proceed with the admissions process without further verification. The correct answer is C. Immediately reject the application due to the unverified discrepancy, as it raises concerns about the applicant's attention to detail and honesty. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The admissions committee must navigate this situation with careful judgment, ensuring that any decision aligns with the American University of Science and Technology's (AUST) established policies and ethical standards for admissions. The core of the challenge lies in verifying the authenticity of the student's academic record without compromising the integrity of the admissions process or unfairly penalizing the student if the discrepancy is due to an error. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation into the reported discrepancy. This entails directly contacting the previous institution to verify the accuracy of the submitted transcripts and grade reports. This method upholds academic integrity by ensuring that all admissions decisions are based on verifiable information. Ethically, it demonstrates fairness to the applicant by providing an opportunity to clarify or correct any errors, and it protects the reputation of AUST by preventing the admission of students based on potentially falsified or inaccurate credentials. This approach aligns with the principles of due diligence and transparency expected in any admissions process. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the application based solely on the discrepancy without further investigation. This fails to uphold the principle of fairness to the applicant, who may have a legitimate explanation for the difference. It also bypasses the due diligence required to ensure the accuracy of information, potentially leading to an unjust decision. Another incorrect approach would be to accept the application at face value without verifying the discrepancy. This undermines academic integrity and the credibility of the admissions process, as it implies a willingness to overlook potential inaccuracies or misrepresentations. It also sets a dangerous precedent for future applications. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a structured approach. First, identify the discrepancy and its potential implications. Second, consult relevant university policies and procedures regarding admissions and academic integrity. Third, initiate a fair and impartial investigation to gather all necessary facts, including direct verification from the source institution. Fourth, evaluate the findings objectively. And finally, make a decision that is consistent with university policy, ethical principles, and the pursuit of academic integrity. Question 12. System analysis indicates that a prospective student who is preparing for the American University of Science and Technology entrance exam has approached you, a current university staff member, expressing significant anxiety about the exam's difficulty and asking for specific insights or hints that might help them perform better. Considering the university's commitment to fair and equitable admissions, which of the following represents the most professionally responsible and ethically sound course of action? Option A. Reassure the student that their anxiety is understandable and suggest they focus on managing their stress rather than worrying about the exam content itself. Option B. Offer to conduct a personalized coaching session for the student, focusing on the exact types of questions and problem-solving techniques expected in the upcoming exam. Option C. Advise the student on general study strategies and recommend official university preparation materials, emphasizing the importance of independent learning and honest effort. Option D. Provide the student with specific examples of questions that have appeared on past entrance exams, along with detailed explanations of how to solve them. The correct answer is C. Advise the student on general study strategies and recommend official university preparation materials, emphasizing the importance of independent learning and honest effort. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The challenge lies in navigating the ethical boundaries of providing assistance without compromising the integrity of the entrance examination process, which is designed to evaluate a candidate's genuine aptitude. Careful judgment is required to uphold the university's standards while still being supportive of a prospective student. The correct approach involves guiding the student towards legitimate resources and emphasizing the importance of independent preparation for the entrance exam. This aligns with the American University of Science and Technology's regulatory framework, which implicitly mandates the fair and unbiased administration of its entrance examinations to ensure all applicants are assessed on their own merits. Ethically, this approach upholds principles of fairness, honesty, and academic integrity, preventing any undue advantage for one candidate over others. It respects the purpose of the entrance exam as a standardized measure of readiness. Providing direct answers or specific exam content to the student is an incorrect approach. This action would violate the fundamental principles of academic integrity and fair assessment, as it would grant the student an unfair advantage and undermine the validity of the entrance examination. Such an action could be construed as a breach of the university's internal policies regarding examination security and fairness, and potentially violate broader educational ethics that prohibit deceptive practices. Offering to coach the student on specific question types without revealing actual exam content, while seemingly benign, can also be problematic. If this coaching becomes overly specific or tailored to the exact format and style of the current entrance exam, it risks crossing the line into providing an unfair advantage. The ethical failure here lies in the potential for such coaching to become a de facto form of insider information, even if not explicitly stated as such, thereby compromising the equal opportunity principle for other applicants. Focusing solely on the student's anxiety without addressing the ethical implications of the request is also an incomplete and potentially harmful approach. While empathy is important, it should not override the professional responsibility to uphold the integrity of the examination process. The ethical failure is in prioritizing a single student's emotional state over the broader commitment to a fair and equitable admissions process for all prospective students. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the university's academic integrity policies and ethical guidelines. Professionals should first identify the core ethical dilemma, balancing support for an individual with the responsibility to maintain institutional integrity. They should then consult relevant policies and seek guidance from supervisors or ethics committees if unsure. The decision should always prioritize fairness, honesty, and the preservation of the assessment's validity, while offering appropriate ethical support. Question 13. The monitoring system demonstrates a candidate repeatedly glancing at a small, concealed note during the American University of Science and Technology entrance exam. Option A. Immediately report the candidate for academic misconduct without further verification, assuming the note contains prohibited information. Option B. Disregard the observation, as it is a minor infraction that does not significantly impact the exam's validity. Option C. Consult the official American University of Science and Technology entrance exam regulations document to determine if this action constitutes academic misconduct and follow the prescribed reporting procedure. Option D. Seek guidance from general academic integrity guidelines published by international educational bodies to assess the situation. The correct answer is C. Consult the official American University of Science and Technology entrance exam regulations document to determine if this action constitutes academic misconduct and follow the prescribed reporting procedure. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to interpret and apply the American University of Science and Technology's (AUST) specific entrance exam regulations regarding academic integrity. The core difficulty lies in distinguishing between minor, unintentional deviations and deliberate attempts to gain an unfair advantage, which could have significant consequences for the applicant and the integrity of the admissions process. Careful judgment is needed to ensure fairness and adherence to the established rules. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the AUST entrance exam's official guidelines on academic misconduct. This approach is right because it directly addresses the specific regulatory framework governing the exam. By consulting the official documentation, the individual can accurately identify what constitutes a violation and the appropriate procedure for handling such situations, ensuring compliance with AUST-established rules and ethical standards for admissions. An incorrect approach that involves immediately disqualifying the applicant without a proper investigation fails to adhere to due process and the specific procedures outlined in the AUST regulations. This could lead to an unjust outcome and potential reputational damage to the university. Another incorrect approach, which is to ignore the observation as insignificant, risks undermining the integrity of the entrance exam and setting a precedent for future misconduct. This neglects the university's responsibility to maintain a fair and equitable admissions process as mandated by its own regulations. A third incorrect approach, which is to consult external, non-university specific academic integrity policies, is flawed because it does not guarantee alignment with OST unique requirements and may introduce irrelevant or conflicting standards, thereby failing to meet the strict jurisdictional compliance demanded by the exam's framework. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Identifying the relevant university-specific regulations and policies. 2. Gathering all pertinent facts and evidence related to the observed behavior. 3. Analyzing the observed behavior against the defined regulations to determine if a violation has occurred. 4. Following the prescribed procedural steps for addressing potential violations, which typically include investigation, notification, and a fair hearing process. 5. Documenting all actions taken and decisions made. Question 14. Examination of the data shows that an admissions officer at the American University of Science and Technology, AUST, has identified an applicant whose academic profile is strong but not exceptional, and who is also a distant relative of the admissions officer. The admissions officer is aware of the university's commitment to a merit-based and impartial admissions process. Which of the following represents the most professionally responsible course of action for the admissions officer? Option A. Evaluate the applicant's application objectively, focusing solely on their academic merits, and proceed with the standard review process without mentioning the relationship. Option B. Discreetly highlight the applicant's strengths to other committee members, emphasizing their potential contributions to the university, without explicitly stating the familial connection. Option C. Disclose the familial relationship to the admissions committee and recuse oneself from any involvement in the evaluation or decision-making process for this applicant. Option D. Recommend the applicant for a secondary review by a different department, hoping this will mitigate any perceived conflict of interest without direct disclosure. The correct answer is C. Disclose the familial relationship to the admissions committee and recuse oneself from any involvement in the evaluation or decision-making process for this applicant. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate potential conflicts of interest and uphold the integrity of the admissions process at the American University of Science and Technology, AUST. The pressure to favor a relative, coupled with the desire to maintain fairness and adherence to established university policies, necessitates careful judgment. The correct approach involves a transparent and ethical disclosure of the familial relationship to the relevant admissions committee or designated authority. This upholds the principle of impartiality and avoids any perception of undue influence or favoritism. By recusing oneself from the decision-making process concerning the applicant, the individual demonstrates a commitment to the university's stated values and regulatory framework governing admissions, which prioritizes merit and fairness. This aligns with ethical guidelines that mandate the avoidance of conflicts of interest and the promotion of transparency in institutional processes. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with evaluating the application without disclosing the relationship. This failure constitutes a breach of ethical conduct and potentially violates internal AUST policies designed to ensure a fair admissions process. It creates an environment where bias, even if unintentional, can influence decisions, undermining the credibility of the university. Another incorrect approach would be to subtly advocate for the applicant through informal channels or by highlighting specific aspects of their application in a way that suggests preferential treatment. This circumvents the formal review process and introduces an element of subjective influence, which is contrary to the principles of objective evaluation and fair competition for admission. Such actions can lead to accusations of favoritism and damage the reputation of both the individual and the institution. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Identifying the potential conflict of interest. 2. Consulting relevant university policies and ethical guidelines. 3. Disclosing the conflict to the appropriate authority. 4. Recusing oneself from any decision-making related to the applicant. 5. Prioritizing institutional integrity and fairness above personal relationships. Question 15. Assessment of the appropriate response by the American University of Science and Technology Admissions Committee when a prospective student submitted essay, which is a critical component of the entrance exam, is flagged by plagiarism detection software for significant overlap with publicly available online content. Option A. Initiate a formal review process to investigate the extent of the overlap, consult with the applicant and apply the university's academic integrity policy based on the findings. Option B, immediately disqualify the applicant and deny admission due to academic dishonesty. Option C, request the applicant to rewrite the essay without further investigation into the initial findings. Option D, accept the applicant's essay at face value, assuming the overlap is coincidental, and proceed with the admission process without further inquiry. Correct answer is B. Immediately disqualify the applicant and deny admission due to academic dishonesty. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to present their work and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The core of the challenge lies in balancing the encouragement of student initiative with the strict adherence to established academic policies regarding plagiarism and proper attribution. Careful judgment is required to ensure that, while fostering a supportive learning environment, the university also upholds the principles of original work and ethical scholarship. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the student's submitted work against the university's academic integrity policy, specifically focusing on the definition and consequences of plagiarism. This approach is right because it directly addresses the potential violation by applying the established rules and procedures. The American University of Science and Technology entrance exam's regulatory framework, as implied by its nature as an entrance exam, would mandate adherence to academic honesty. Therefore, a systematic investigation, including consulting with the student and relevant faculty, to determine if plagiarism has occurred and to apply the policy accordingly, is the ethically and procedurally sound path. This upholds the integrity of the admissions process and the academic standards of the university. An incorrect approach would be to immediately dismiss the student's application based on a single accusation without due process. This fails to uphold the principle of fairness and the right to a proper investigation, which is a fundamental ethical consideration in any academic or professional setting. It also bypasses the university's established procedures for handling academic misconduct. Another incorrect approach would be to overlook the potential plagiarism to avoid conflict or to expedite the admissions process. This is ethically unacceptable as it compromises academic integrity and sets a dangerous precedent. It undermines the value of original work and can lead to a decline in the university's reputation. Such an approach violates the implicit trust placed in the university to maintain high academic standards. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly identify the potential issue and the relevant policies. Second, gather all necessary information through a fair and impartial investigation. Third, consult with appropriate university officials or committees as outlined in the policies. Fourth, apply the policy consistently and fairly, ensuring that the student is informed of the findings and their rights. Finally, document all steps taken and decisions made. Question 16. Which approach would be most appropriate for the American University of Science and Technology to adopt when initial scoring of its entrance examination reveals unexpected statistical anomalies in a specific section, potentially indicating an issue with either the examination's design or its administration? Option A. Immediately flag all applicants whose scores fall within the anomalous range for further individual scrutiny and potential retesting. Option B. Initiate a comprehensive review of the examination's statistical performance, including item analysis, psychometric properties of the affected section, and a detailed audit of the administration procedures for that section. Option C. Focus on identifying and disciplining any proctors or administrators suspected of mishandling the examination, without a broader review of the exam itself. Option D. Assume the anomalies are a result of random variation and proceed with the current scoring without further investigation. Correct answer is B. Initiate a comprehensive review of the examination's statistical performance, including item analysis, psychometric properties of the affected section, and a detailed audit of the administration procedures for that section. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's need for accurate admissions data with the ethical obligation to ensure the integrity of the assessment process. The entrance exam is a critical gatekeeper, and any compromise in its administration or scoring could lead to unfair advantages or disadvantages for applicants, potentially impacting the academic reputation and future success of admitted students. Careful judgment is required to uphold both fairness and accuracy. The correct approach involves a thorough and systematic review of the examination process, focusing on identifying potential systemic issues that could have led to discrepancies. This approach is professionally sound because it aligns with the principles of due diligence and fairness inherent in educational assessment. Specifically, it addresses the need to investigate the root causes of any anomalies, ensuring that the admissions process is equitable and that the exam accurately reflects the applicant's abilities. This aligns with the implicit ethical guidelines of academic institutions to maintain fair and transparent evaluation standards. An approach that immediately dismisses the concerns without investigation is professionally unacceptable because it fails to uphold the duty of care to applicants and the institution. It suggests a lack of commitment to accuracy and fairness, potentially leading to the admission of unqualified students or the rejection of deserving ones. This bypasses the ethical imperative to thoroughly examine any evidence of irregularities. An approach that focuses solely on individual applicant scrutiny without considering broader process issues is also professionally flawed. While individual cases might warrant attention, a systemic issue could affect a larger cohort. Ignoring potential flaws in the exam design, administration, or scoring mechanisms means that similar problems could persist, undermining the overall validity of the assessment. This neglects the responsibility to ensure the integrity of the entire examination system. An approach that prioritizes speed of resolution over thoroughness is professionally unsound. While efficiency is valued, rushing to a conclusion without adequate investigation can lead to incorrect judgments and further damage to the institution's credibility. The ethical obligation is to ensure that decisions are based on accurate and complete information, even if it requires more time. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured investigation. This begins with acknowledging the reported concerns and initiating a fact-finding mission. The next step is to analyze the data and processes involved, looking for patterns or anomalies. Based on the findings, a determination should be made about the nature and extent of any issues. Finally, appropriate corrective actions should be implemented, and the findings should be communicated transparently to relevant stakeholders. This systematic and ethical approach ensures that decisions are fair, accurate, and defensible. Question 17. Implementation of a research project for the American University of Science and Technology (AUST) entrance exam requires an applicant to utilize various sources. The applicant discovers a helpful online summary of a key academic text relevant to the project. The applicant is unsure if using this summary directly, even with proper citation, is considered acceptable by AUST academic standards, or if they are expected to engage directly with the original text. What is the most appropriate course of action for the applicant? Option A. Proactively consult the AUST student handbook or the relevant academic department for clarification on acceptable research practices and citation guidelines regarding the use of secondary summaries. Option B. Ignore the potential issue and submit the research project without seeking further guidance, assuming the use of the summary will not be detected. Option C. Proceed with using the online summary, citing it appropriately, as it is a readily available resource that aids in understanding the topic. Option D. Directly copy sections from the online summary and cite it as a source, assuming that proper citation negates any academic integrity concerns. The correct answer is A. Proactively consult the AUST student handbook or the relevant academic department for clarification on acceptable research practices and citation guidelines regarding the use of secondary summaries. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate an understanding of the foundational principles of academic integrity and ethical conduct expected of students at the American University of Science and Technology, AUST. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate and ethically sound response when faced with a situation that could potentially compromise academic honesty. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between acceptable and unacceptable actions, ensuring adherence to university regulations. The correct approach involves proactively seeking clarification and guidance from the appropriate university authority regarding the use of external resources. This demonstrates a commitment to academic integrity by acknowledging the potential for misunderstanding and taking steps to ensure compliance with AUST academic policies. Specifically, Consulting the OS student handbook or the relevant academic department for guidance on acceptable research practices and citation methods aligns with the university's commitment to fostering an honest academic environment. This proactive measure prevents potential violations and upholds the principles of original work and proper attribution, which are cornerstones of academic ethics. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with the research without seeking clarification, assuming the use of the online summary is permissible. This fails to acknowledge the university's specific regulations on academic misconduct, which typically prohibit plagiarism and the unauthorized use of sources. Another incorrect approach would be to directly copy content from the online summary without attribution. This constitutes plagiarism, a serious academic offense that violates OS policies and undermines the learning process. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to ignore the potential issue and submit the work as is, hoping it goes unnoticed. This demonstrates a lack of ethical awareness and a disregard for the university's academic standards, potentially leading to severe disciplinary action. Professionals in academic settings should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical conduct and adherence to institutional policies. When faced with ambiguity regarding academic integrity, the process should involve 1. Identifying the potential ethical or regulatory issue. 2. Consulting relevant university policies and guidelines, e.g., student handbook academic integrity policies. 3. Seeking clarification from designated university officials, e.g., professors, academic advisors, student affairs office, if the policies are unclear or the situation is complex. 4. Acting in accordance with the guidance received and university regulations. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are informed, ethical, and compliant with established standards. Question 18. Market research demonstrates a significant opportunity for the American University of Science and Technology, AUST, to enhance its online learning platform by integrating advanced AI-powered personalized learning tools. However, the implementation of such tools involves substantial data collection and processing of student information, raising potential privacy and security concerns. Which approach best balances innovation with institutional responsibility? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive risk assessment that identifies potential data privacy and security vulnerabilities, evaluates their impact, and develops robust mitigation strategies before proceeding with integration. Option B. Delegate the entire decision-making process to the IT department, trusting their technical expertise to manage any associated risks without further institutional oversight. Option C. Prioritize the immediate adoption of the AI tools based on the positive market research, and only address any privacy or security concerns if they are explicitly raised by students or regulatory bodies. Option D. Immediately proceed with the integration of the AI tools to capitalize on the market opportunity, assuming that any issues can be addressed reactively as they arise. Correct answer is D. Immediately proceed with the integration of the AI tools to capitalize on the market opportunity, assuming that any issues can be addressed reactively as they arise. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to balance the potential for growth and innovation with the imperative to adhere to established regulatory frameworks. The pressure to adopt new technologies and strategies, driven by market research, can create a temptation to bypass or downplay necessary risk assessment procedures. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any strategic decisions are not only commercially viable, but also compliant with the American University of Science and Technology's, AUST, internal policies, and any relevant external guidelines governing educational institutions. The correct approach involves a systematic and thorough risk assessment process. This entails identifying potential risks associated with the proposed changes, evaluating their likelihood and impact, and developing appropriate mitigation strategies. This approach is professionally sound because it aligns with principles of good governance and responsible management, which are implicitly expected of individuals in positions of influence within an academic institution. Specifically, it demonstrates a commitment to due diligence, foresight, and the protection of the institution's reputation and resources. Adhering to a structured risk assessment process ensures that decisions are informed, defensible, and aligned with the long-term sustainability and integrity of AUST. An incorrect approach would be to proceed with the implementation of new technologies without a comprehensive risk assessment. This failure to conduct due diligence is a significant regulatory and ethical lapse. It exposes us to potential operational disruptions, financial losses, data breaches, and reputational damage, all of which could have severe consequences. Another incorrect approach would be to conduct a superficial or biased risk assessment, where potential negative outcomes are deliberately downplayed or ignored to expedite implementation. This constitutes a breach of professional integrity and a disregard for the institution's well-being. Such actions undermine the principles of accountability and transparency that are fundamental to responsible institutional management. Professionals facing similar situations should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes a structured and objective evaluation of all potential consequences. This framework should include 1. Clearly defining the scope of the proposed change. 2. Systematically identifying all potential risks, both internal and external. 3. Assessing the probability and impact of each identified risk. 4. Developing and documenting mitigation plans for significant risks. And 5. Obtaining appropriate approvals based on the risk assessment findings before proceeding with implementation. This methodical approach ensures that decisions are well-informed, ethically sound, and compliant with all applicable regulations and institutional policies. Question 19. During the evaluation of the admissions process for the upcoming academic year, the admissions committee identifies a bottleneck in the document verification stage, significantly slowing down the overall application processing time. The committee is under pressure to meet enrollment targets. Which of the following approaches best optimizes the process while maintaining integrity? Option A. Reducing the number of review stages and relying on automated checks for all application components, regardless of complexity or potential for error. Option B. Temporarily suspending the review of certain application components that are prone to delays, such as standardized test scores, until after the initial enrollment deadline. Option C. Implementing a tiered review system where applications with complete documentation are fast-tracked for initial assessment, while incomplete applications are flagged for follow-up, ensuring all applications eventually receive a thorough review. Option D. Expediting the process by accepting applications with missing documents and relying on applicant self-reporting for initial screening, with verification to occur later in the process. The correct answer is C. Implementing a tiered review system where applications with complete documentation are fast-tracked for initial assessment, while incomplete applications are flagged for follow-up, ensuring all applications eventually receive a thorough review. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the university's operational efficiency with the integrity of its admissions process. The admissions committee must ensure that the process is fair, transparent, and adheres to the American University of Science and Technology's established guidelines for evaluating applicants. The pressure to process applications quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise these principles. The correct approach involves a systematic review of each application against predefined criteria, ensuring that all necessary documentation is present and that the evaluation is conducted by qualified personnel. This aligns with the university's commitment to a rigorous and equitable admissions process, as implicitly required by its accreditation and operational standards. It upholds the principle of fairness by treating all applicants consistently and objectively. An approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness by accepting incomplete applications or bypassing standard review procedures is professionally unacceptable. This would violate the university's internal policies and potentially its accreditation standards, which mandate a robust and fair admissions process. Such an approach risks admitting unqualified students, undermining the academic reputation of the university, and creating an unfair advantage for some applicants over others. Another incorrect approach is to delegate the entire review process to junior staff without adequate oversight or training. This can lead to inconsistent evaluations, errors in judgment, and a lack of accountability. It fails to uphold the professional responsibility of ensuring that admissions decisions are made by individuals with the necessary expertise and understanding of the university standards. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve, first, understanding the core objectives of the admissions process: fairness, academic rigor, institutional integrity. Second, identifying potential risks to these objectives posed by operational pressures. Third, evaluating proposed solutions against established university policies and ethical principles. And fourth, selecting the approach that best safeguards the integrity of the process while striving for reasonable efficiency. Question 20. Stakeholder feedback indicates that some prospective students inquire about the perceived difficulty of the American University of Science and Technology entrance exam and subtly seek advice on how to best prepare in ways that might go beyond standard study. As an admissions officer, how should you respond to such inquiries to uphold the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment? Option A. Offer general advice on exam preparation without specifically addressing the ethical implications, focusing on time management and general study strategies. Option B. Clearly explain the purpose of the entrance exam as a measure of foundational knowledge and reiterate the university's strict policies against any form of academic dishonesty, advising the student to focus on legitimate study methods. Option C. Advise the student to consult with current students or alumni who may have insights into the exam's format and content. Option D. Suggest that while the exam is challenging, some students find success by focusing on key areas that are often emphasized, without further clarification. The correct answer is B. Clearly explain the purpose of the entrance exam as a measure of foundational knowledge and reiterate the university's strict policies against any form of academic dishonesty, advising the student to focus on legitimate study methods. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The university entrance exam, as a gatekeeper for admission, must uphold rigorous standards to ensure that admitted students possess the foundational knowledge and skills necessary for success. The pressure to perform well on such an exam can lead individuals to consider unethical shortcuts. The correct approach involves a direct and honest communication of the exam's purpose and the university's policies regarding academic integrity. This aligns with the American University of Science and Technology's (AUST) commitment to ethical conduct, as typically outlined in university handbooks and admissions guidelines. Specifically, it upholds the principle of fair assessment, ensuring that all applicants are evaluated on their own merits. Furthermore, it adheres to the spirit of transparency expected in any educational institution, providing prospective students with clear expectations and discouraging any form of academic dishonesty. This approach prioritizes the long-term integrity of the university's admissions process and the academic reputation of its graduates. An incorrect approach that involves providing vague assurances about the exam's difficulty or suggesting that certain tips might be helpful without explicitly addressing academic integrity would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a lack of transparency and could be interpreted as tacitly condoning or even encouraging the pursuit of unfair advantages, thereby undermining the principle of fair assessment. Another incorrect approach, such as offering to provide practice materials that are not officially sanctioned or are derived from past exam content, would be a direct violation of academic integrity policies. This action would not only compromise the fairness of the entrance exam, but also potentially expose the university to accusations of favoritism or corruption, severely damaging its reputation. A third incorrect approach, which is to dismiss the student's inquiry without providing any guidance or reiterating university policies, is also professionally deficient. While it avoids direct complicity in unethical behavior, it misses an opportunity to educate the prospective student about ethical academic conduct and the importance of the university's standards. This passive stance fails to uphold the university's responsibility to foster an ethical academic environment from the outset. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a commitment to upholding institutional values, prioritizing transparency, and adhering strictly to established policies. When faced with inquiries that hint at potential ethical breaches, professionals should proactively address these concerns by clearly communicating relevant policies and ethical expectations. This involves educating stakeholders about the importance of academic integrity and the consequences of its violation, thereby reinforcing the university's commitment to a fair and equitable admissions process.